Yeah, he
preached his
right,
sermon
from
there on the lake. From Salem.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we're pretty much down onto the lower level of the lake coming around Pond Hill here, and we have the Charles H. Tilton House on Main Street, right across from Wenham Lake, and I believe that might still be around today.
It is. It's been modified a little, but it's still basically...
Although I see it says here burned in 1906.
They were able to, well, not all of it, pieces of it, enough to reconstruct another dwelling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jumping back to the year of 1893, another view, Main Street near North Beverly. And we're looking, this time we're looking south, Harold, I would assume.
That's correct.
As we go back up to
and what you see is that Pond John Dodge's house. We call it that, John Pond.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been known both ways,
Yeah.
Pond John and John Pond.
He's the fellow that they buried over in the Wenham Cemetery, and
right.
his brother was buried sitting up or something so he could keep an eye on things.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting, though, today you can't see this view. This is all fenced in and wooded.
That's
today.
true.
It was a nice lawn area back 100 years ago.
Probably they had some orchard trees, and these aren't the ones in the top, but they might have had. They lived off the land then, so they had a lot of orchards and stuff that produced food.
Yep. Again, we're looking at that site of the John Pond Dodge house site. And the trolley tracks were going, looking right up the hill, Harold, around the corner, the curve, which would lead us into Beverly if we could follow the track here.
And what you can also see right to the right of the middle is the mansard roof house, which still is there with
the house the house rooftop right over the trees here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, we see evidences of boats, which reaffirms our earlier statement that in those days it was
Fishing.
all right to boat.
Yeah, fish.
You could swim if you wanted to, and fish and do about anything you wanted to there, before they got an idea that it should be preserved as a water shed for Beverly and Salem.
Well, we call that Waters Cottage, when we were coming down.
Yeah. Same house.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a dock here, and I think there'll be some pictures later on
coming
of
up.
A little girl.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We might also say that the street here looks much narrower. They obviously have widened what we now call Route 1A, the main street.
Probably, yes.
Because when you take your trolley track, or in this case it might have been the horse car track at this time, same track, and the street looks a little narrower than it might look today. And here we are, same picture, Harold, the next one over, 1891.
On his 5x7, he got a glimpse of the same thing. Yeah.
And we can easily see today almost the same view as we round Pond Hill heading to Beverly.
We don't see Waters Cottage, but we saw that great big barn that was this side of Waters Cottage.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, Main Street looking toward the Tiltons from the foot of Pond Hill, 1896. Same view, basically. Stood a little further back, I would say.
Now, you see they've built the stone wall along there then, which still stands. Right.
Yep. So we can date that wall there just by looking at Mr. Conant's pictures.
Right. Pictures are great for putting dates on.
Sure.
You can narrow it down within 1 or 2 years in most cases.
Absolutely. Okay, we're, again, right around the Pond Hill area, and this picture is 1896, May 11. What do we have here, Harold?
This is, I guess it's basically a picture of the new wall. They had a lot of scrub trees in this area which were removed, and this is along the shore of... Today we have that nice view that we partake of as we round the corner. They're looking out on the lake, but you can get a glimpse of C.E. Beard's boarding house, and the boarding house was put up primarily to board workers in the ice industry.
And this entryway on this right-hand side is still there.
That is still there.
We go around the lake, we see that. And again, 1890, this goes back now a few years. He, as I say, was very active at this period of time down around the lake. and we see a little girl sitting out at the end of the pier. This was that pier that you referred to,
That's
Harold,
correct,
earlier.
and that's probably the same boat that's tied up.
Same boat.
Yeah.
Somehow or other, I have the name of Batchelder, a little Ethel Batchelder girl or something.
Yes.
This might or may not be her.
It could be, because there's another shot of a little girl.
Related to Fred Batchelder.
Yes.
In fact, that's coming right up now in the next picture.
Ah, that's it.
And this is, from what I have been told, a Batchelder girl related to Fred.
Yes.
And Mrs. Mary Cogswell,
Yes.
related to that family, standing there. Ethel, I believe her name is. But
That's correct.
isn't this a wonderful picture, Harold, of the ice houses that were once there?
This is interesting because it shows the ice houses that were over on Cedar Street, because you can see three peaks of gables, and that's after you go around this, then it goes back up north and then around Cedar Street.
Yep. But the thing is, what makes this so interesting is comparing it with today's view. We see these ice houses and barns here, storage barns, but the foliage that's there today wasn't there back in those days. They had cut it all down, Harold.
Well, those were the days of wood burning, and everybody had wood burning stoves, and it didn't take long to clear the land and burn the wood.
Did Mr. Phillips, Mr. John Phillips, start to restore the area in terms of replanting young trees over there?
Oh yeah, I think he was interested. He was interested in that and wildlife, fishing, game, and things of this nature.
Yeah. But those barns, though, they're quite a sight to be able to look back, just to be able to see them here.
I think one of the things you should see here is what they call the new elevator. And that is they bring the ice in, and the elevator takes it up and stores it. Well, it did store it into some ice houses, but the ice houses at this time had burned.
Yeah, but this is in 1891, and they would have had electricity in which to help to drive some of these machines that they.
Oh, I'm sure they did, because you remember back in the Frank Woodbury's shoe factory, there was a humongous electric motor. It was an early one. It was a Thompson motor.
Yep. Okay. And again, we presume the same young lady sitting
I think
on the pier.
Yeah. Evidently this was a particular view that Benny enjoyed taking, because he called it a mirror image, and evidently there wasn't a ripple in the water, and what you saw on the land, you saw a reflection on the shore.
Yeah. You know, this may or may not be the same girl. As I look at the picture, the preceding one was 1891. Now we have this is 1906, so this is 15 years later.
Yeah,
that girl of 1891 would have grown. So this is definitely someone else that's sitting there at this point in time. Little that it matters at this day who she was, although we must say also that one of the things he was very careful in most instances to label his pictures and identify them.
That's correct.
As far as the people were concerned.
Maybe he didn't get that close to ask her.
Could be. Yeah. Could be. We have the old gauge ice houses here, Harold. Now this goes back to 1870, I see here.
This was a copy, negative, of a picture that evidently somebody had when all 10 of the ice storage houses were in working order. And you can see the old elevator at the left there, and they had poles, and they used to pole the ice and push it around, and they worked it that way. So ice being somewhat slippery, it worked pretty good. But the records say it burned in 1873, and I think the question is how much of it burned, because there's a little conflict in whether all 10 burned or just 5, a bank of 5 burned.
They look like they were all attached, Harold, were they not? One side or the other?
No, well...
Or are we just looking at an angle here?
Yeah, I think you're looking at an angle, but they could have been attached by the boardwalks here, so you could sluice the ice across. Sure. Yeah, but the buildings themselves, I don't think one bank was attached to the other, but there's no way for me to really know because
long time ago.
Yeah, I don't quite remember that.
1873.
And this bank, this nearest bank of 5, was built after the first bank, and they say that cupola at the end was one of the churches.
Oh.
And there used to be a bell in it to ring the times, if working hours were over or lunchtime. Yeah.
Very interesting. Imagine the number of men who made their living working these.
It was an industry.
It sure was.
Yeah.
And the ice, as we said earlier, was shipped all
over the world. Yeah.
From Wenham Lake.
And that was in the early stages before it got contaminated.
Yeah. Okay, now we see. Well, we don't see much of it today because they keep the lake pretty much at a higher level, but this is the...
in the summertime, you can see the pipe.
The Longham pipe.
Right.
December 1899, and this pipe, Harold, as a feeder to the lake from the Longham Reservoir, which sits back over off of Dodge Street, Dodge's Row.
Correct.
And Mr. Conant, again, was able to capture that at low tide.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is when they figured that the reservoir come in handy, and because they were taking water out of the lake at a great rate, and it was evaporating at a great rate.
Now, it's interesting to me. I don't see any vestiges here of ice houses, Harold. They may be in their picture, and we can't see them.
No, it's that little piece of land after the ice houses
that hides a little bit of what we, because there obviously in 1899 there were many ice houses left on the lake at that point. That was their time.
Yeah, there may be a continuation over here. See, it was so low. You'd find the ice houses were probably.
We're looking at maybe them out of the picture a little bit. Now, the little trestle track, or the track that went across Main Street from the B&M Railroad, which went by further out west of the lake. These are the men here that were responsible for building this little sidetrack, Harold.
Well, what this depicts is they resurfaced the street. They pulled up the horsecar tracks, and they did a new roadbed for the electric car tracks. And the electric cars were evidently heavier, and they required a better roadbed than what the Huskars had.
Okay,
but over to the right, you can see the track that used to go out to the main Boston and Maine line.
Right. One of the ways in which they would convey the ice from the lake to the various depots.
Right. You could go right into Boston, and then it loaded on ships and then shipped all over the world.
Yeah. Right about it here is where the Peter Stone is.
It's
today.
And they moved it forward, I'm sure.
Yep.
It used to be back a ways because the hill was back there, and they pulled the hill down to put the track in.
1896.
Yeah.
Fellow there knew he was taking his picture. See him standing there looking right at the camera.
Well, he was working at that time. Yeah.
Well, this is a blow up here, Harold, of what we saw a minute ago.
Yes, these were copy negatives, and this happened to be an 8x10 that I blew up so we could see a little more detail. I don't know whether we see much more detail, but this shows all 10 ice houses that burned in 1873, and we don't know whether they all burned at the same time.
No.
And the reason I say that is because when we go to the next photo, it shows some men fishing, And what we see is the new elevator, and we still see a group of 5 barns. And that tells me that they all didn't burn at the same time.
Sure enough, points that way.
It looks that way, unless there's something wrong. But that is definitely the new elevator.
Yep.
And 5 peaks. So
interesting. Now we have a real. Well, no, you wanted to talk about that before we go to the next one. Okay.
I think we talk about ice houses, and I thought I'd give you some dates as to when things happened. This is just a smattering, so to give you a good idea of the ice industry as it was.
Yep.
Well, in the early 1800s, a man by the name of Frederick Tudor sold ice from many sources, and one of them including Wenham Lake. And Wenham Lake was popular because it had the purest ice in the world. That this is the way the feedback come back.
Reputations were built.
And they say you could see in a block, you could see right through it, just as if it was water, clear water.
Let them try that today, Harold.
No. There's too many pollywogs in it today. Yeah. And in 1843, a man by the name of Charles Lander of Salem evidently had the right to cut ice on Wenham Lake, and he was instrumental in building